So I want to thank everybody for being here. I know that it's hard to sit in a chair, especially when you're going to be there all day, so we will be taking frequent breaks, just so you guys know. My name is Dana Russell. I own Russell Dental Management, and my baby is Dental Concierge Coach. I love talking to teams about how they talk to patients because I think it's so important. Our words have power. Our words have value. I've been in dentistry about 35 years. I started out at the front office with zero experience. I had a wonderful mentor at the time and fell in love with it. It is the most noble of professions I have ever been around, and I can't imagine being in a different profession. Thank you all for being here because you must love it as much as I do. Great story. Your beginning is amazing, and that is what dentistry should be. So you guys are extremely fortunate. Throughout the years, I worked front office. I noticed the assistants went home every night, and I went home and thought about insurance that I hadn't filed, and patients I hadn't called, and things I hadn't done, and it kept me just all night. I was worried about it. So I went to my doctor and I said, I want to learn to assist. I don't want to take all those troubles home with me every night. He was like, okay, I'll teach you. So he chairside trained me. I went to University of Gainesville and got my expanded functions and my x-ray. Worked as a dental assistant chairside for several years, loved it. Found ortho that way, started in an ortho practice, and that was my passion. In ortho, I started going back up front, doing contracts, talking to people about money, talking to people about case acceptance, and working with the doctor on our cases that were coming in every week. From there, I decided that I wanted to get into a little bit more of back to the front, not be in the back as much. I was getting older. It was getting harder, as some of you are very well aware. And took a position in a general practice, private practice. And he had hired an office manager to come in from Heartland. And she basically mentored me. She taught me the business of the business. And it was like a light bulb went off. And I was like, oh my gosh, there is so much I didn't know about the dental business. So from there, she taught me a lot. She got me into a different private practice as an office manager. From there, I went to corporate. I went to ortho corporate. I went to oral surgery corporate. I went to general corporate. Came back to private practice. Found out that what I do is I grow practices, and I do it really well. And it was systematic is how it happened. From there, I decided that I didn't want to do that forever. I didn't want to be the person behind the front desk that had been there for 40 years and was building the practice, and then the doctor sells the practice. Now what do I do? Where do I go? So with my doctor's blessing, I still work with that practice. I stepped out of the practice and into coaching in 2017 because I wanted to help more than one doctor. I wanted to help any doctor that needs help. I wanted to help practices talk to people. I wanted to help practices be better. You all do stuff right. That's why you're here. But we can always grow and learn. I spend probably 6 weeks a year in CE, whether it's insurance, case acceptance, verbiage training, anything I can to learn, because as we know, dentistry is changing. It is exponentially in the last 5 years. So what I bring to you is from my experience. I know you guys have a way of doing things, and that should not be changed because that is the core of who you are. But we can always look at how we say it and how we body language it and how we do it, and we might be able to pick up a few things just to make it a little better for us and for our patient. Is that a deal? Yep. Awesome. So one thing I wanted to start off with when Christy reached out to me was people had questions on case acceptance. And we talked a lot about that because there's two different parts of case acceptance. There's the actual treatment, right, that we're talking about, and there's the financials. So we're talking about the treatment. You guys talk treatment chairside, right? Who are my hygienists? There's a lot of you. Okay, and assistants? Okay, just so y'all know, I'm terrible with names, so I'll never remember names, so please don't fault me for that. So I think it's amazing that you guys talk that chairside. I love that you want to take it off the front office because that's where my heart lies, and I think there's just so much going on up there that it's awesome to do it chairside. But what are we doing when we're talking case acceptance? We're selling, aren't we? I said that word. I did. It's selling. Selling is not bad. Selling is trading a goods for service for money. That's what you're doing. You're giving a service, you're getting money. And you should never be ashamed that you're selling. You're not used car salesmen. That's not what we're doing. We're not selling used dentistry, right? But can you imagine? I have some dentures here somewhere. But
Some patients that probably go for that.
true story, I had a guy come in, his wife had passed away. He wanted us to alter her denture to fit him. He set it on the desk and I was like, you can keep that. I will go get the doctor for you. Yeah, no, it doesn't work like that, unfortunately, but it doesn't. So we're selling, and that's okay. You have patients that come here because they have a problem, right? That's why they're here. They're not just coming in because they went by and the building looked cool and, oh, let's go in and see what they do there. They have a problem, they have a need, and you're going to fill that need for them. If you can't, if it's not something that they want, it's okay if they don't schedule and they don't come back because they don't see the value. So we're selling, but we have to sell the value, right? So how are we finding out what the value is to the patient? How do we find out what is important to that patient?
Talking with them, getting to know them.
Exactly, we ask questions. If you don't know what your patient needs, as far as emotional needs, if you don't know anything about them, it becomes difficult for the doctor to go in and say, I see this and this and this. When we're talking case acceptance, we have to connect to that emotional treasure that they have. It has to make sense for them. If I walked up to Christy and said, hey, Christy, you need this pen. You need to buy this pen from me. I need to sell you this pen. She'd look at me like, I have a perfectly good pen. I don't need your pen. But if I explained to her, Christy, I noticed when you're using this pen you have, there's times that it blobs, the ink blobs on the page and it doesn't look really nice. And then why it concerns me is the ink gets everywhere. People up front get it on their hands. Papers get it all over there. And so if you don't change your pen, it's going to keep happening. Now, I have a pen that I can let you use, or you can get a pen somewhere else, but you need a better pen. She's going to be more open to saying, well, I'll take your pen because I gave her the value. This is what I see. This is why it concerns me. And this is what will happen if you don't fix anything. If your patient always can decide to do nothing, right? That's always an option. That is an option, correct? Okay, let's make sure that you guys do that. So if the patient chooses not to do anything, we have to give them the expectation of what they can expect. Most of this comes from the doctor, but we all know when the doctor leaves the room, patient turns and says what? Do I need that? What do you think? Are there other options? How much is that going to cost, right? So we have to make sure the value is there. The doctor leaves the room. Now it's up to whoever's in the room. We have to continue that value. Did your doctor get your patient to a yes? Did the doctor say, Mrs. Jones, do you have any questions on what we've discussed? If we can make this work for you, are you ready to begin treatment? If that patient says yes, doctor walks out, now it's up to you guys to continue that conversation with that patient and get them to their yes because they have to sign that treatment plan. We don't do anything without a treatment plan, right? That's best practice. We have to let the patient know what worst case scenario is. So as we're going through and we're talking to the patient, we have to ask questions. In my office, it is required that every patient that comes in, every time, the dentist or the assistant or the hygienist has to find one new fact about that patient. They have to talk enough, have enough rapport to find something new about that patient. Is it that their child is getting married? Is it that they're starting a new job? Are they going to be selling their house? Did they buy a new car? Something. And they document that in the software so that we have it. We can then refer back to that if we need to. But if you don't start asking questions, open-ended questions, you don't get feedback from the patients. It's part of basic rapport building. So when do we ask questions? When do we sit down with the patient, we start talking. What do? We have two different kinds of treatment, right? We have old treatment, people that have come in, doctors diagnose, they never move forward. and it's still in their schedule, right? We've got new treatment. I come in today, I have a broken down tooth, the doctor talks to me about it, I need a crown. So when do we talk about these? Because we have to address them. If we don't talk to the patient about it, it's not important. How can the doctor create a sense of urgency if we then say, okay, well, here's the treatment estimate, and we never mention it again? Right? How important was that? It wasn't. So we have to look at when do we do that. I want to talk for a minute about existing treatment the patient comes in with, and we're going to talk to them about that. Typically, this is going to be your hygienist, right, that see this. When a patient comes into a hygiene appointment, you sit the patient down, review their health history, you take their x-rays if needed, you perio chart if needed, you take your photos, you do all that kind of stuff. And then, is that when you come in for your exam? Yep, okay. So the doctor comes in, you talk about old treatment, or do they talk about that first? Or does anybody talk about it?
Try to connect with them and build some regain or build rapport before we jump into the dentistry. But then we have a bit of a verbal handoff. With
Yes.
The hygienist is giving an overview of
Yep, your trust transfer.
why they're in there.
Yep.
I have concerns, they don't, or they have concerns, and I talk about that with them, and so there's a transfer of information.
Okay.
And handoff to the doctor.
Okay. So your doctor has already spent time diagnosing and discussing with patients this old treatment, right? Before that patient gets seated back, we do what I call, that's what my mentor always called, the real task, R-E-A-L. Okay? We recline the patient. We empathize with the patient. We ask the patient. And then most importantly, we listen with the patient. So the patient gets reclined. It's recline raise. We recline them. We're looking. We're checking against the charting that we have. Patient's expecting you now to start your treatment, right? Start your hygiene appointment. You sit the patient back up. Now you raise them back up. You ask them, Mrs. Jones, I see that you have spoken to doctor many times about whatever it is. It's always a condition. Do you guys talk about needs, or do you talk about condition? Do you talk about decay, or do you talk about broken down teeth? Do you talk about needing something, or the condition that warrants it? Everybody's looking like, I don't know. Both. Patients want to hear about the condition. Patients don't care what they need, okay? Because what I think I need and what you think I need are going to be two totally different things, right? So we talked to them about the condition. Last time you were in, you and Dr. Davis talked about that molar that's fractured and has some decay on it. That's the condition, right? That's what we want to fix. May I ask you, what's keeping you from moving forward? They're going to answer. But we have to listen so we can take care of the problem. What are they going to answer? What are the top, let's say, 4 reasons people don't move forward with treatment? Okay, time. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, what was it? I'm too old. I don't need my teeth. I get it. It's not hurting. They need more information, right? Y'all said money, right, is the first one. Do you know that's not the first reason that people don't do treatment? Money is like down at number 5 or 6. Time, that's a big one. Fear, that's a huge one. Lack of information or lack of knowledge. Those are the top 3. That comes directly from 1-800-DENTIST. Fortodontics did a survey in 2022 to replace the survey they had done in 2019. Those are the top 3 reasons. Money's way down here. Kind of weird, isn't it? People buy what they value. So if we've got the patient in the chair, would you share with me? May I ask you why you have not moved forward with fixing your tooth. They're not expecting that. They're not expecting you to have that conversation. And you're asking permission. Would you share with me? May I ask? That's huge important. They will tell you why they haven't moved forward. And it's probably going to be time or information. So it's important that we ask those questions, because the more times we ask the question and we get the information objection, that helps us next time with another patient, right? Seems like every time I sit down and talk to a patient, they just didn't understand the need. That's important to know, because now we can start talking about the need the first time we're talking about it. But if we aren't tracking why people aren't moving forward, we don't know. So I'm a numbers nerd. I track everything because I always want to know what's going on. So asking those types of questions is important. Okay, so we have that real conversation. We recline them, we check our charts, make sure they still need the treatment, raise, empathize, ask, and listen. Okay, this is primarily in the hygiene chair. Now when your doctor comes in and you're doing your trust transfer, I spoke with Mrs. Jones about the conditions that she had previously, that molar that was fractured, that decay in that upper premolar. And we discussed about moving forward with that. More often than not, you're going to have, at that point, the patient's ready to move forward with that. So we can start cleaning all that out of our books. Is it still the same? Taking photos. Do you guys take photos for your case acceptance?
Yes.
Photos are huge. My hygienists have to take 2 photos on every hygiene patient. Doesn't matter if they don't have treatment, we're finding something. It might be good. It might be a healthy gum. It could be anything they've flossed great and we're showing the patient. But pictures speak volumes. So being able to show that, and if you have a picture from last time they were in that showed that decay and you could barely see it, and now you've got a picture this time and it's bigger, that moves people. But if we're not engaging with them and we're not asking these questions and we're not listening to why they're not moving forward, we're never going to know. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So we've got the patient with the existing treatment that we're talking about. When we have new treatment, your doctor has come in, he's talked to them, he's diagnosed it, he's left the room, they've asked you, what do you think? Do I need it? Are there other options? Now we have to address why they're not wanting to move forward. People having questions is a beautiful thing, because questions and objections are the 2 main reasons that people aren't ever going to schedule an appointment. Do you guys know what the difference is? What's a question? Question about treatment. Need more information? What's an objection? Very, very close, yes. Question is, I need more information, right? An objection is, okay, you gave me information and I don't like what I heard. So I'm going to ask another question. As long as this cycle is going, it's good. Patient wants more information. They may say no once they get the information. They may say yes. What does no mean?
Right now.
Yeah, nothing changes. No just means nothing's going to change right now. It doesn't mean I don't like you, I don't want you to do my filling. It doesn't mean I don't like dentistry. It just means not right now. Now's not a good time. So if we're finding out questions and objections, once we get through all of those, is there anything else that would keep you from moving forward with your treatment at this time? We have to ask. If they come up with a question, yes, there is something. We overcome it. Is there anything else that would keep you from moving forward with your treatment at this time? We don't want to give them the option of, do you want to give us a call back? Do you want to talk to your wife? Do you want to talk to your husband? When people say those things, those are objections. They're stalling tactics because they don't have enough information. So you all know your doctor's treatment philosophy, right? All the doctors you work with, you know their treatment philosophy, correct? Your guys' clinical protocols, you have those down. You know when you see a tooth, this is probably what they're going to talk about. Excellent. So it makes it easy for you to tee that up for the doctor, right? So the doctor comes in, you talk, this is what we talked about, my concerns, patient's concerns. The doctor does their doctorly stuff, okay? That's their job to diagnose. If the doctor has asked the patient, that first yes, remember, if we can make this work for you, are you ready to move forward? Is this something you're interested in? Okay? Doctor leaves, you're overcoming the questions and objections. Is there anything that would keep you from moving forward with your treatment? I can't think of anything. Okay, are you ready to move forward? I need a yes. That's what you're listening for. A yes is a commitment. Okay, a commitment means I've heard you, I'm ready to move forward. They still may not be ready to move forward today, but now they're ready to move forward. They see the value. They see what you're doing and they see the value. You go through the treatment plan, they come back up front. The financials are that last yes. Okay, this is what it's going to cost you. Are you ready to move forward? So most of you aren't, are you dealing, let me ask this question. When you're dealing with treatment acceptance in the back, are you collecting from the patient for that at that time? Okay. Are you, when you're discussing what you're doing and how much it is, are you setting up financial arrangements with the patient in the back? No. Okay, so that still goes to the front. Yes. Okay, perfect. So that is your third yes. Okay, there's got to be the 3 yeses in order to get people to schedule. And it's not as hard as it sounds. It's, are you ready to move forward with this? Yes or no? Is there anything that would keep you from moving forward? Great, so you're ready to move forward with your crown or your fillings or your line therapy, whatever it is? Yes. They go up front, that financial is the last yes. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. But we can't answer those questions and overcome those objections if we don't ask what's going on, if we don't take the time to listen to our patient. When we ask a question, our biases come into play. Fun fact, you ask your patient a question, they're always going to respond. Okay? The brain is wired that way. Someone asks me a question, I'm going to respond because that's what my brain wants to do. It could be any number of responses, but I'm going to answer the question. Are we listening? Because as soon as we start hitting something, patient starts talking, it sounds like everything that every other patient has said, our biases come into play. And we start thinking about, okay, this is what the patient's saying, and they're going to talk about this, excuse me, and then I'm going to have to respond, I'm going to have to overcome that objection, and this is what I need to tell them, and I got to remember to tell them this, and we're not listening anymore. Okay, we're listening to respond. That's huge. And we all do it. I'm horrible guilty of it, but I do it too. But we really need to listen to listen. We need to listen to hear. We need to listen to understand. Because every patient has a different story. And that is so important that we are listening to what our patient says, because if we listen, they're going to tell us everything we want to know, right? But we need to ask the right questions too. We need to ask permission for them to talk to us. May I ask you why? Would you share with me? Patient doesn't want x-rays. May I ask why you don't want to move forward with x-rays? Would you share with me what your concerns are? Because now I'm listening to, I probably know, but I don't want to make a judgment that I know, because it could be something so off the charts and it's so easy to overcome. So we have to listen to understand. And that's a skill that we all have to develop, and it takes a while. Our biases, we're wired that way. Oh yeah, this is what everybody always says. Yeah, I know, I've heard it all before. Okay, well, I understand. That's what we do. Okay, I understand. Could you really even repeat what they said because your brain was working on something else? So that's very, very important, is listening when somebody is talking about that. If information is an obstacle, fear is an obstacle, right? What are they afraid of? When you're talking about your doctor's treatment philosophy and you're talking about what this patient is going to have done, we're explaining the procedure, correct? Ask them, what questions do you have? Not do you have questions. Okay, and we tend to do that. Do you have any questions for me? It's a yes or no question. Bless you.
Thank you.
What are they going to say? No. No. Why do we do that? Do you guys do that? If you go to anywhere and they say, do you have questions? No.
It's a nervous no.
It is. Because we're afraid of stupid questions, right? There are no stupid questions. A question means I need more information. But people have been judged so much out and about, they don't want to be judged here. And people don't want to look silly. Well, if I asked them that, it'd be a silly question. So if you breach that with, what questions do you have for me? You're inviting them to ask you questions. It makes a huge difference. All of a sudden, the questions start coming. Well, I was wondering about, well, what happens if? You get somebody like me who's a C on the DISC scale, they'll ask you 100 questions. Because now you've given me permission. So now I'll ask questions all day long. So asking permission and that it's an open-ended. It's not a yes or no. We don't want yes or no. What are some other questions that we ask, that we typically ask yes or no? Do you, can you, will you? Okay, we do it all the time, and it's okay. But if we're trying to get information, would you share with me? May I ask? We're asking permission, and we're asking them, would you share with me any other questions that you have? What other questions do you have? You'll get that patient talking each and every time. Okay? So then that opens up the fear for you. You can now address the fear. What are some of the fears that patients share with you? That's the tip. If you think about it, is it going to hurt? I don't know. I don't know what your pain tolerance is. You're probably going to be numb. Probably not. But it gives you the opportunity to address that. You know, my response to that, to a patient that says that, is I always kind of smile and say, I won't feel a thing, I promise. And they're just like, oh, okay. Share your personal stories. Do y'all get your dental work done here? Okay. Has anybody ever run from the building because it hurt? But not here, right?
Not here.
Okay. Share those stories with your patients. If I'm talking to a patient about a root canal, I always tell them, I have a huge fear of needles. I didn't even feel the injection. I was good there, and I fell asleep in the chair while they were doing the root canal. And patients are like, really? Yeah. But share your stories, because that makes it real for the patient. They trust you, right? They're here with you. So if you can share your story, people want to be like other people. They want to do things other people have done. So they're going to trust, and that's going to help them to move forward. Yes?
I think it's also important to not discount their fears.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Exactly. I personally have never had a bad experience at a dentist, ever, in my entire life. I don't understand dental fear, but it's real. And I'm happy to share with my patient what our office does to overcome that. Because fear will keep people away from the dentist. It is a real fear. And so that's part of you have to build the value, because remember, people buy what they value, right? Do they want a crown or do they want a big screen TV? It's almost Super Bowl. You know, well, where are we at? A new couch or a filling? But we have to understand that, because that is human nature. If I don't value it, I'm not going to buy it. Well, if I'm being told what I need, you need a filling, we need to fix that with a filling, I don't know if I need that as much as I need a new couch. So again, it comes back to, this is what I see, this is why it concerns me, and this is what can happen if you choose to do nothing. I'm building value. If you're sitting chairside with a patient, part of that fear, how many times has the dentist done this? Crowns, you guys probably do hundreds. I'm just guessing. Is that about right? You know what? Dr. Davis does hundreds of these every year. We custom make your crown. We send it out to a lab and they create it for us. We restore that tooth and it looks better than it did originally. I'm building value. You guys use Glidewell, is that correct, Chris? That's what you told me?
We use some Glidewell, some Zircon, and some local, there's a local.
But nothing overseas, right? No. So that's value. We're going to, this appointment is about an hour and a half. This is how I would tell my patient if I was sitting chairside. In order to prepare your tooth for a crown, it's a custom crown for you, and it takes about an hour and a half. Doctor will get you numb. He's going to prepare the tooth as per the lab's recommendations. We work with a great lab. We have a local lab that we send to. It's great. We're going to take an impression or a scan. In our office, we scan. We're going to scan the impression over to the lab. The lab's going to create that custom crown. You and I are going to decide on a shade before you leave, so you have a lot of say in that. We want you to be happy with the color and look of it. When that crown comes back, we're going to have you come in. We're going to take that temporary off. And we're going to put the permanent on. If it fits well and everything looks good, the doctor's going to go ahead and permanently cement that. You're going to get about 5 to 10 years out of this crown. If you get more, that is amazing, but you can expect about that. And we'll go over your care and feeding instructions while you're here when you get that delivered. Because you got to tell them how to take care of it, right? Oh, I got a crown. I don't ever need anything done to that again. So I'm building value. I'm telling them we're using a local lab. We do hundreds of these. This is something we do all the time. I'm helping people to feel better about their decision to move forward. I'm removing that fear barrier. Okay? What kind of value can you build if a patient has questions about fillings in your office? What are some things that you would want to hear?
You can match it to your natural shade.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry?
I tell people I can't even tell which you have to.
That's huge. Especially older patients who have silver fillings, right? Yeah, it's gonna be beautiful. We're gonna custom match that shade for you. Because you're not just reaching into a box and saying, I hope this works. So it's value. You're helping the patient to understand why they need to move forward with the treatment. Pain, okay, we talked about that. Is it gonna hurt? Is it hurting now? What kind of pain are they referring to? What kind of value can I build with that? Because clearly, you guys are doing it right. People are coming in. People aren't passing out in the chair. So the pain has to be minimal, right? I mean, modern dentistry, you hardly feel anything. Build that value. What's the other reason they don't do work? We've got the fear. Time. If I let me rephrase that. What is the biggest objection you get with time? If I told you you needed a heart transplant, would you tell me that your schedule's too busy? Can't do that this year, I'm sorry. It's just not going to fit it in. Okay. But nobody's really talking about time, are they? How long is it going to take? How can you say, I can't take off work if you don't even know how long it is? Okay, it's an excuse, it's not a reason. But if we preempt that, you'll be here X amount of time. Okay? In my practice, we use block scheduling. So we do things like crowns, for example, in the morning. We don't do those. We do one right after lunch, but that's as late as we go. So I would say, you're going to be here 90 minutes for that appointment. Doctor sets aside certain times of day for those. I can see you in the morning or right after lunch. Which would you prefer? I've told them now how long it's going to take. If they want to start it today, that's going to be my first choice. But if they don't, that's okay. People want to say, I want to come in after work, right? Well, can I come in after work? I don't want to take time off work. I would love to be able to schedule you after work. However, the most powerful word in dentistry, however. However, doctor sets aside certain times of day for these types of procedures. I can do that in the morning or right after lunch. Which would you prefer? And that's what I just told him, right? But now I told him why. Because they was a question. Now it became an objection. I heard what you said. I didn't like it. I don't want to take off work. I would love to. However, and then I can say, but you know what I can do is when your crown is ready to be delivered, I can do that after work. And they're like, oh, okay. So I only have to come in once. Okay, I can do that. It's about setting expectations and talking about that time factor. How much time are they really investing? Okay, I don't have time. Well, how much time are we talking about? They have time for other things, right? What's it come back to? Value. People buy what they value. So I want to do a quick exercise. When we're building value, we have to talk to the patient because we have to know what's important to them. But when we're building value, we have to have what we call sizzle points. Have you guys ever heard sell the sizzle, not the steak? Okay. That's what you're doing, right? You're selling the sizzle. What are 4 things about the doctors that we're going to put them together as a group? Later on, if you guys want to do it for each doctor, but for sake of time, and I'm going to write these down as we're doing this. 4 things about your doctors that you want everybody to know. You would scream it from, she's like, I got a list. Go ahead.
I'll tell you one.
Okay.
But I think one of the big ones is that they're very approachable and very friendly and personal. Everyone wants it.
Okay, so our doctors are very open to talking with patients about anything.
Yeah.
Our doctors are approachable. They involve you in your treatment. That's huge, isn't it? Because we're not going to say you need, right? This is what I see. This is why it concerns me. This is what you can expect if you do nothing. This is your condition. Other than approachable, they're compassionate. What does that mean? If you say the doctors are compassionate, what does that mean? Caring? Kind?
They genuinely care about those individual fears or objections.
Okay. Perfect. The reason I ask is because everybody throws around the word compassionate, don't they? I mean, when you're talking to somebody, oh, our staff is very compassionate. But what's it mean? Our doctors care about you. Our doctors are kind. They listen to you. That's value. There's an office very close to here. I can see it from a hotel window where they're not compassionate and they don't listen. Okay? I'm guessing. I'm just guessing. But what's another thing?
Gentle.
Gentle? What does that mean?
They're not gonna hurt you. They're not rough.
They're not careless with how they.
I like that better than they're not going to hurt you, because hurt is a personal journey, right? We don't want to hurt people. That's the whole point of it. But they're going to take care of you. They're not careless. Our doctors are very intentional in their treatment, right?
They have your best interest.
I love it. They have your best interest. They care about you. I'm writing these down because I will be sending all this back over, so I just want to make sure I get it right. So they're approachable.
I'm
They're
getting it all.
they're approachable. They're compassionate. They have your best interest. They're kind. What else? Well, that's important. They play well in the sandbox. Okay. Wow. Okay.
That's coming from Catherine, don't take much stock.
Okay.
Hey, Fight Club, party line.
But
They don't
that's,
do anything that's not necessary.
oh, that's huge. That's huge. Our doctors are very conservative.
Conservative, right?
Yep. People love that word when it comes to dentistry. Our doctors are conservative. Ooh. Because I'll tell you, what flies around from people is, oh, and they told me I needed all this stuff that I don't need. Yeah. I'm sure you needed some of it. I'm not going to argue with you. I've talked to you. You need some of it. But being conservative, that's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that you don't do the treatment that's necessary. It means to me that you don't do things that aren't necessary. I'm a firm believer in fluoride. I think every patient should be talked to about fluoride if it will benefit them. So it's that kind of philosophy. You know, if it's good for you, we'll talk to you about it. If it's an option, we'll talk about it. So that's important, that being conservative.
Like Jasmine said, being patient, you know, they don't get frustrated with the patient, or if things are difficult, they don't get frustrated under the patient.
They don't hurt things.
Well, again, that comes back to your guys' core values. It really does. We don't get frustrated with patients. How many times do patients tell you they feel judged at other offices? Yeah. And I'm sure they asked them, do you have any questions? Nope. Nope. No questions. So that's important because people don't like to be judged at all. They don't like to be judged and sorted. You start doing that, people are going to walk out the door. It's just the way human nature is. We don't feel that others should be judging us. So that's very important that we, you know, you're welcome here. This is a safe place. You may not have been to the dentist in 20 years, but you know what? You're here. And that's a huge first step. So it's validating these fears that they have. It's validating these concerns that they have. And validation is a huge part of your case acceptance. Have you guys ever heard of using, or have you used feel, felt, found? Familiar? Okay, powerful, isn't it? Because we're not judging. Feel, felt, found is one of my favorite things. I love it. I use it a lot when I'm talking to new patients because it's very, on the phone, it falls in there because, again, we don't want to judge. Feel, felt, found is when you are acknowledging that they have a concern. You're letting them know that you heard them, you understand them, and that others have felt that way too. So for example, well, I don't know if I want to do that because my insurance doesn't cover it. Do you guys hear that a lot? Maybe once or twice? Okay. I understand how you feel. We have a lot of patients that have felt the same way. They want to maximize their insurance benefits. And what they found is that the insurance doesn't always have your best interest. And sometimes, we have to do things that are not within the realm of your policy. And they're okay with that. What other questions do you have about that I could share information with you? So you're letting them know that, number one, it's okay to have that feeling. You heard them, you understand, and you want to help them. And you know what? Other people have done this too. Other people had that same question. They had that same concern. They felt the same way. So now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one that's ever felt like that. So it's very powerful when you're using that with people. And when we're talking about talking to new patients, talking to patients in general, that is part of that. So we'll be practicing that a little more this afternoon. Yes, there will be role play. Please come back after lunch. Please come back after lunch. Okay. Please don't leave now. Okay. Okay, so some basics when we start talking to patients about treatment estimates, okay? Certain just generalities. We want to establish that time is not an obstacle. So we have to determine what do they mean by time, okay? Is it time of the appointment? That's an expectation we should always set. This appointment, you will be here about X amount. Do you guys do that now? Do you let them know how long they'll be here? Okay, excellent, excellent. So you're setting the expectation because that's what everything is about. Customer service falls under setting great expectations. Okay? So you don't want to pigeonhole you guys in. So I always use the word, I don't like non-descriptive words. I don't like non-defining. I don't like words like typically, usually, normally. But in this instance, I will use the word about. You'll be here about 90 minutes. You'll be here about 2 hours. Because there's some things here we may not know about. The patient may be hard to get numb. If we know that, you may be here about 2.5 hours. Sometimes it takes longer for you to get numb, and we want to make sure that you're comfortable before we start. So I just built value for why they're going to be here a long time, right? Now they're like, oh, okay, they're going to take care of me. They're going to be comfortable. Same-day treatment is huge. Do you guys do a lot? I think I asked you that yesterday. Do you guys do you offer a lot of same-day treatment?
Yeah.
Is that ideal for you guys? Mm-hmm. I love it because they can't cancel if they're already here, right? Patients here, they're here. So if we talk about time, it's always good to say, well, you're already here. If we have time and you have time, would you want to stay today and get this done? So if they say yes, we have to throw one more caveat out there. If we have time today and it's going to be a little bit of a wait, are you okay with that? Because if I go back to my lead assistant and I say, Heather in hygiene has Joe and he needs a filling. Can we do it right now? Lauren may look at the schedule and say, not right now, but we can do it in 20 minutes. I can get him in a chair in 20 minutes. So I want to set that expectation. So if we can do it now, is that good? If we can do it now, but there's a small wait, is that okay too? Do you need to call anybody? Do you need to let work know? Is that work for you? And if you know that they talk about time a lot, if you want to take care of that while you're here, you don't have to drive all the way back down here. You don't have to take off work again. Building that value. But I wouldn't know that was important if I hadn't asked the patient that just in general conversation. One of the best ways, a little side note, I love doing that when they come in, when you sit them in the chair, thank you so much for coming in today. We appreciate you taking the time to come see us. If you thank people for doing things, they'll continue to do it because it makes them happy. They want to please people. You all want to do the right thing, right? You want to do things that make people happy. I want to do things that make people happy. So if you thank them, they will continue that behavior. So we focus on same-day treatment. Obviously, we need to know who we go to for that. We need to know what our schedule is, if that can be done. But we have to present that treatment plan, right? We've got to talk to the patient about what we're doing so that they can give us permission to move forward with that treatment. So yesterday I was watching, you were with me.
Trista.
We were watching Trista?
Trista.
Okay, yes, okay. So, excellent job. Again, I'm terrible with names, but excellent job. I want to go over what she said. See, you don't have your scrubs on.
I know.
That was not fair. Excellent job. I want to go over what you said. I want you to replicate what you said. Can you do that? They're not listening. It's okay.
I don't know, it's kind of in the moment.
So you have the patient, you get the treatment plan. They checked it up front, right? You noticed it needed something else. That was excellent catch. Sent it back up front. They brought it back, and you were sitting there with the patient. So present a treatment plan to her.
So I'm gonna go over the, I just can't do it.
Yes, you can.
This is for the filling we discussed. You know, we talked about this, and this is.
Mhm.
This is over that filling that Dr. Davis recommended, and you have great insurance. This is an estimate of what we're expecting your insurance to cover. So this is our fee, this is the discount because your insurance is in network. This is the estimated, or this is the insurance fee. This is what we're estimating your insurance to cover. If you have a deductible, that's reflected in this, and then this is your estimated out-of-pocket.
And that's when you said to her, that's great, you have great insurance.
Yeah, sometimes I'll say it before, sometimes it's.
Yeah.
Really?
I loved that you said that's great insurance because even if it's not,
It's still discounting it though.
it makes them feel good, right? It's better than saying, wow, it's really bad insurance. But it happens. So great job. What I would tweak with that is when we're talking to the patient, you've got your treatment estimate, right? So this is the treatment that you and the doctor discussed. I'd stop. What questions do you have about the treatment? Okay? I'm not going to talk about the filling or the crown. What am I going to talk about? The condition of the tooth. This is the treatment for the decay that you and doctor talked about. Okay? What questions do you have about the treatment? I don't have any questions. Wonderful. Then we can get on to the numbers, right? So this is what your total cost is, just like what you said. You have great insurance. They're going to pick up a nice portion of this, even if it's only $10. Or you're fortunate. They're going to pick up a nice portion, about X amount. So I'm going to make up numbers here. So your total cost, your total investment, if it's over $50, it's an investment. So your total investment is $300. You have great insurance. Looks like they're going to pick up about $200 of that. So we're going to ask you to cover $100. I don't know when you collect it, if it's now or the time of treatment. Okay, let them know. If there's any balance or credit after the insurance pays, we'll settle up then. How does that sound? And patients are like, oh, okay. If we start throwing in terms like in and out of network, contracted, it starts to confuse the patient because those are our words. Those aren't the patient's words. This is what your total is. If their insurance does not say that you send it and the insurance said, oops, we made a mistake, they don't have it. That's what they'd be charged, right? Because you're showing the discount. Your insurance is going to pick up a nice portion, about this much. We're going to ask you to cover this much at the time of treatment. If there's any balance or credit left over, We'll settle up then. How does that sound? The reason I address the credit is because I don't want people thinking if there's a balance, we'll reach back out. But if there's a credit, well, we're not going to tell you. Because some people operate that way. Some people think, well, what if I paid too much and my insurance pays more? Are they going to give that back to me? What's going to happen with that? If we address it out front, it doesn't even enter the conversation. If there's any residual balance or credit, we'll settle up after that. How does that sound? So now I'm asking them for permission to move forward. How does that sound? If they have a question, this is where they're going to ask it, right? What about? What if? And then I can address the question. Have I answered all the questions? This is a yes or no question. Have I answered all the questions to your satisfaction? Yes. Or, what other questions do you have for me now? What other questions about the treatment do you have? What other questions? What other questions? What other questions? Because then when they're done asking questions, great, let's go ahead and get you scheduled. So you've taken all of their objections and their questions. The doctor asked them, are you ready to move forward? You talk to the patient. Are you ready to move forward? So now we can get them on the schedule, right? And you guys schedule in the back. That's awesome. Get it taken care of. They go up front. You told them how much you're going to be collecting. So if they pay for it then or they pay for it when they come in, whenever you all collect, they know, they're aware, they get their copy, they take their original or copy home with them, whichever you give. So we're taking what you did, which was excellent. We're just adding a little bit of value into it. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So another hygienist? Hygienist? Oh, all of a sudden there are none in the room. Not one in the room. Nope, I just became an assistant. Thank you. Okay. I can still see you. I would like for you, using this different verbiage, present a crown. You got this.
Is that okay with you?
I love the. So the couple of things that stood out. Great job. I love your delivery. I love the way you're speaking to her because it's very soft, it's very warm, it's very inviting. Okay? Patients love that. Always tell them what the total investment is. This is what your total amount is. I wouldn't say it covers 50%. Your insurance is going to cover about this much. We expect them to cover, or we estimate them to cover about this much. I find that we tend to overuse the word estimate. It's almost like we talked about the pop-ups yesterday on the charts. We tend to just not even listen to it anymore because we hear it so much. That was good. Instead of saying, is that okay with you? That's a yes or no question. And that's giving her the option to say, no, I just can't do that right now. We can take care of this today. This is what your investment would be. This is how much we're anticipating your insurance to cover. So your total today would be, I'd collect X amount. Would you like to go ahead and stay today? It's still a yes or no. Okay, would you like to go ahead and stay? But if we're saying, is that okay with you? No, it's never okay with anybody to pay money. I mean, we know that, we do. And someone will go, no. But yeah, that's okay, yes, I can make that happen. But I love the way that you spoke with her. It was very soft, it was very explanatory. You were giving her the information that she needed. Okay, thank you, I appreciate it. It's always difficult when someone puts you on the spot like that. I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that. What I'd like to do is take about 5 or 10 minutes. I want everybody to get up, shake around, refill your water, okay? If your butt's hurting, you're not listening to me. So.